Hey everyone, I am recording this video real quick from my hotel in Salt Lake City. If I look a little tired, it's probably because I am. I did just finish the Unit 2 discussion as well as the Unit 2 journal entries. I tried to provide as much feedback as I could, but I may have been a little bit briefer than I usually like to be, just because I wanted to make sure to get it done so that you all have your scores. If you have any questions, please ask via email, text, Twitter. I'm always happy to help out with questions about feedback that I've given or any questions about the material or the course requirements. I think we all did a very good job of thinking about the implications of independence for early nations in Latin America. Something we didn't delve into in quite as much detail is the notion of nation building. This is the idea that nations have to be constructed. So there are a bunch of different people, different backgrounds. They had the colonial experience to unite them. But as many of you pointed out, women had a certain role to play in the independence movement. There were a lot of different women that kind of played a leading role in trying to eke out new rights for themselves in relationship to not only their place in the private sphere, but also a new place in the public sphere. But they were still working against very deeply entrenched ideas of patriarchy that relate back to Spanish and Portuguese Catholicism, among other things. So that's just one element of the independence struggle that we don't often talk about. Of course, we usually talk about the Simón Bolívar and the San Martins, who led troops in the field. Their efforts, of course, were key and important. I appreciate some of the comments that we had on the Creoles and Peninsulares and the divisions between them that also played a role in the independence movements. Of course, as most of us pointed out, Napoleon's conquests in Europe acted as a spark that ignited independence in a lot of ways. But if disputes had not already been there, coming out of the reforms, the Bourbon reforms as they were called in the Spanish Empire, the Pombal reforms in Brazil, in the Portuguese Empire, they tried to streamline, those reforms tried to streamline the colonial administration, but they created new conflicts between those people who seemed to have the favor and the ear of the king, the Peninsulares in this case, because they were born in Spain. They had been brought over to the Americas from Spain, specifically because they had that connection. The Creoles, who were of Spanish descent or of Portuguese descent, they had that same claim to blood purity that was so important in the colonial era, but they were kind of knocked down a notch on the ladder of importance because of those new reforms and because they hadn't been born in Europe. That is an important conflict that Creoles were happy to kind of jump on when Napoleon took control of Europe. They were happy to create these new cabildos, juntas, that were governing in the name of Ferdinand VII, Fernando VII. But of course, they kind of wanted more, especially when he decided not to uphold the Constitution of 1812. That would have made him a constitutional monarch and placed some limits on his power. So we can understand why he wouldn't want to do that. But again, there's this space for different things to happen. A question that we kind of danced around but didn't get into in a ton of detail is this key reason for instability in the new independent republics. So if you want to earn a little bit of extra credit, up to 25 points extra credit, as was the case with the bonus question, respond to that issue. What were the main reasons for instability in the new Latin American nations? And of course, Brazil was a bit more stable than the Spanish American or former Spanish American nations, principally because the monarchy stayed there. Um, Joao was there. He left his son Pedro. Pedro had to make some hard decisions, declared independence, but he's still a member of the Portuguese monarchy for all intents and purposes, who has relocated himself to Brazil. We'll see how that didn't guarantee stability in the long run as we study the rest of the 19th century in the next unit. But again, just for some extra credit, answer that question about instability. What were the key factors that made new Latin American nations unstable? Also, why was independence a conservative goal in Peru and Mexico, whereas in other places in Latin America it was more of a liberal goal? Simón Bolívar and his supporters wanted to create a large nation called Gran Colombia that united much of northern South America under one national banner, following on some of the liberal ideals of the European Enlightenment that had helped to inspire the formation of the United States and its government. But in Mexico, people like Agustín de Iturbide were trying to reinstate empire, but just localized in Mexico. So rather than kind of being obedient to the Spanish crown, replacing that monarch with an emperor. So again, those are some questions you can respond to for extra credit points. If you want that, please. I'll post this not only here in the announcements, but also on the discussion board. Just respond to this video in that thread on the discussion board if you would like that opportunity. I feel like there were some other things I was going to summarize and recap, but it's late and it's been a long day. I wanted to say I appreciate all of your hard work. You guys are one of the strongest Latin American history classes altogether that I've had in quite a long time, just judging by your early work here in Unit 2 and your introductory work. So please keep up the hard work. I enjoy learning from your insights on Latin American history, and I hope that you've also enjoyed talking about this region so far as well.